Super excited for today's episode. Before we get into it, I have to give a big shout out to our sponsor, OpenFortune. Looking for a unique way to reach your audience? OpenFortune offers an innovative approach to advertising by placing your brand message inside fortune cookies. Yep, you heard me, reaching 99% of U.S. zip codes through a network of 47,000 restaurants, from the Chinese restaurants you know and love on your block. It's a memorable and effective way to connect with consumers at a moment when they're most receptive. Elevate your marketing strategy with OpenFortune. Thank you, OpenFortune, for making today possible. So super excited about this one. When I got the email back from Steph, I was super pumped. I've been a Hyperice user for a long time. So today, joining us on the podcast is Steph Smith, a dynamic force in the world of marketing and wellness technology, the VP of Marketing at Hyperice. With nearly 5 years at Hyperice, they've climbed the ranks from manager to VP, shaping the brand's marketing strategy and activation and driving growth in the wellness and recovery industry. Known for their knack for connecting innovative products with athletes and consumers alike, they're helping make Hyperice a household name in recovery tech. Before Hyperice, this marketing powerhouse gained experience with global brands like Uber and Nike, where they played key roles in everything from strategic initiatives to in-person support for Uber's driver partners in Australia. Their diverse background came across various sectors and has uniquely positioned them to elevate Hyperice's brand in the competitive world of wellness. So, Steph, thank you so much for joining us today. Super stoked to have you on. And I got to ask you, how'd you end up here? How'd you end up in this chair across from me?
Yeah, thanks, David. Super excited to be here today. I guess it all started when I moved to America from Australia, which was a really cool experience. I came over way back for college and then worked my way to Nike, and then I've ended up in California at Hyperice.
What was growing up in Australia like?
Very much like LA in a sense. I grew up on the beaches after school, went surfing with my brother. Warm climate, very active community, a lot of fun. Yeah, it was awesome.
And when you got to America for the first time, what were the biggest stark differences between just the culture, the vibes, everything going on?
I think I went to Oklahoma, which was very different to how I grew up on the east coast of Australia. I think my biggest shock was meeting people that had never seen the ocean and didn't care to see the ocean. So that was definitely interesting. But it was an amazing experience. Like, I grew up watching the movies where you see sorority houses and frat houses, and obviously that doesn't exist in Australia, but seeing that in a small college town and being surrounded by such a big athletic program was really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, how'd you end up? I feel like the Australia to Oklahoma pipeline probably isn't too strong, other than punters maybe. But how'd you end up getting your eye on the Sooners?
Yeah, I grew up in Australia rowing, so I was on the crew team for my high school, and my high school coach knew some people over here in the recruiting world, especially in the big college programs, and so we kind of explored it. Wasn't sure if it was for me or not. Came over for a couple of weeks and toured a few different schools, and then ultimately decided that I was going to give this a shot. So it worked out, and I had a great 4-year experience.
Very cool. Yeah, my partner actually, she rode D1 at Wisconsin as well. So I don't know.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, great program.
Yeah. So it's super cool that's how you got over here. But I'm curious, when you're in college and you step foot on the campus, right? Are you thinking sports? Are you thinking marketing? I know you were a Bachelor of Business Administration, but what was the goal of that 4-year education?
Yeah, I was definitely very sports minded. Started in finance, realized I didn't want to go like the heavy finance route, but thought that was a good kind of foundation from a business perspective. Took some sports management classes, which were led by a lot of executives at the Oklahoma City Thunder and different kind of sports leagues in the area. And that really drew my attention into the sports world. I always grew up playing sports. I knew that was my passion.
Sure.
But once I understood that there's a massive business behind sports, from a marketing perspective and a brand perspective, I was really interested in following that route.
And was the goal out of college always Nike? I feel like that might, or was it open to anything?
No, it wasn't the goal. I saw a flyer for the internship program in our like athletic commons area and thought, I'm going to apply for this. It seems like a fun way to spend the summer out in Beaverton, Oregon, and learn about the business. And I got accepted, went out for 10 weeks, learned a lot, and ended up walking away with a full-time position to go back after senior year. So,
And,
um,
and two questions for that. One, what was Beaverton like? What was the expectation going into Nike's campus? Because it really is a college campus,
mhm.
um, versus the reality.
Yeah, it was just go and learn as much as you can. It was very much like set up meetings, set up coffees. They say at Nike, when you're an intern, you almost have like a golden ticket to go and meet with anyone, learn as much as you can, really try to understand the business. There's something like 70,000 employees. So yes, it's definitely a college campus and a massive matrix of people that you have to kind of work your way across and figure out who does what and who's owning what parts of the business. But the goal for me was really just to go and learn and try and get a better understanding of what I was truly passionate about and what I wanted to
Sure.
do after college.
Sure. And a lot of our listeners are in between that, 18 to 25, right? They might have had an internship. They may have not, right? But turning a internship into a full-time job is probably something that's always on somebody's mind, especially that first or second internship. And especially if you're at Nike, what do you think, made the difference between, it just being a 3-month stint and you being there for, the long haul?
Yeah, I think you have to like, really advocate for yourself, is what I learned. Like, there were people that did the internship and didn't want to go back to Nike, and they made that clear. They were like, "This has been an awesome experience, but I don't see this for me." And the people that really kind of put themselves forward and said, I'm really enjoying this, and I see myself in this function, in this department." Most of the time, people are willing to work with you. And if it's not a now, it's maybe in a couple of months when a position opens up.
Hmm.
I think the biggest thing I learned was really advocating for what you want out of the program, and if you do want to roll at the end of it, making sure your voice is kind of heard, so that they're aware of what you want in the long run.
Absolutely. And you end up getting that role as strategic initiative coordinator of global food and fitness. You're there for
Hmm.
a year. What are the biggest things you learned from Nike in that role?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of like relationships, working cross functionally with people, a lot of kind of pitching different initiatives, getting different people on board, pushing agendas forward, making sure you're getting the right people in the room. But then outside of that, like really the marketing side, like Nike is such an amazing marketing engine, and seeing some of the campaigns come to life and what they're doing from just a like emotive feeling perspective with athletes around the world was really impressive to see on the inside.
And so you end up going back to Australia, correct? For Uber?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what was that decision like? I know you probably had a ton more to learn potentially at Nike, but Uber was also, it's another household name.
Yeah, Uber was kind of just growing in Australia, and we had a few other different like rideshare brands. I was more so like on the driver side of operations and making sure that they were really set up for success in the country. So it was a really interesting experience. I learned a lot more so from like an everyday operational like business perspective, but really enjoyed the time kind of being on a different side of a business.
What was the first time that you interacted with a Hyperice product?
It was actually back at Nike. So a part of my role when I was on the team was to bring in very unique kind of brands and products to campus for employees to use. So we built like an Orange Theory on campus for employees. There was a Y7 yoga, and then Hyperice was an amenity that we brought in to the fitness facilities and then some of the offices for employees to use. So I was connected to the founder through that rollout. Back then, Hyperice was just massage guns and Viper foam rollers, which is crazy to think how many SKUs there are today. But that was really my first interaction with the brand.
And what about it was so special? Because, right, the Theragun was around. There was a couple other brands.
Mhm.
I'm sure you used something back in your rowing days, right?
Yep.
What separated them to you, at least before you walked in those doors?
Yeah, I think for me it was the growth. The company was growing exponentially. There was a lot of opportunity. There was a big innovation pipeline coming down the line, and there was just a lot of excitement and a lot of like the hustle and hungry mentality of how do we really blow this thing out? How do we sell out of massage guns on the website, which was happening. And so I really kind of gravitated towards that like attitude and
Sure.
mentality that was coming from the inside.
Sure. And what about, the opportunity really spoke to you, whether it be the founder's vision, right? The role that you were coming on. And what were the pain points that Hyperice was looking for you to fix?
Yeah, so I came in just after the Normatech acquisition. So they doubled their employee headcount overnight. They brought in this line of products, and they were going into their first kind of Series A investment round with a number of star athletes. And so there was a big opportunity to kind of take the branding and the marketing from just regular kind of models and talent with two products to now bringing in people like Patrick Mahomes and Naomi Osaka and really blow it up with this full skew or this full mix of innovation that was helping athletes from the minute they woke up to the minute they went to bed. And so I was really brought on initially from like a content strategy perspective. One of my first projects was actually starting the Hyperice podcast, which was a fun experience, but it was just a really exciting time. It was new products, it was new athletes, it was how do we combine all these things and really make sure that people understand the benefits of these products and how they can help their everyday.
Sure. And how did you separate yourself? What I guess, what did you look for in athletes when you were sponsoring them, right? Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is kind of, an easy one that everyone
Mhm.
wants to be allies with. But after him, right, what do you look for? And Naomi Osaka, same thing. But what do you look for in these athletes?
Yeah, I think back then a lot of those athletes were at the start of their career, with John Moran as well, Fernando Tatis Jr. And it was a really exciting time for them. Like, we definitely took a risk. Like we didn't know how these athletes were going to perform. Um, Luckily for us, it's paid off in a number of ways and where they're kind of sitting now and what they've achieved. But it was really a lot of these athletes had already organic use with the products, were familiar with the brand. Um, One of the best stories is when Erling Haaland, we signed him and he was actually a customer on our website and had bought Normatech years prior, which was a really cool story. But it was really about the organic, authentic use of the product already, and then being able to tell that story of how are we going to grow with their career? How are we going to be there supporting them along the way? Like, what are their recovery routines that they're integrating now as a really young athlete that's going to help keep them in the game for years to come?
Sure. And how did COVID impact the business?
Yeah, COVID was interesting. I started on the first day of work from home for Hyperice, and it was, hey guys, we're just going to be at home for 2 weeks, and then we'll see you back in the office. Turned into 2 years. I think initially there was obviously a bit of a shift from, okay, a lot of people are canceling their gym memberships. You saw the boom of things like Peloton and Whoop, and we were brought into the mix of that as that kind of home product for people to use during COVID, and so we saw a pretty big impact on the business, but it was really just like shifting our narrative. We did a lot of like pop up in person events prior to COVID. So it was figuring out, okay, we can't now get in front of people at the local marathons or the 5K or the expos. How can we now pivot to make sure we're still top of mind and kind of shift that strategy and budget? So we went out and signed a lot of the leagues and team deals. That's when we brought in like the NFL and NBA and PGA Tour and kind of shifted our approach and storytelling into the super elite.
And what do you think the benefits are going like league side versus player?
Yeah, we had a bit of a combination. The league side definitely helped from just a product visibility. Like our products were used during the games. People were using the Venom on the sideline in the NBA or the Hypervolt
Mhm.
on the NFL benches. And that stuff was certainly very helpful, especially once we were able to educate the commentators and the announcers and they were calling the products out by name and really articulating like what X product is doing for X athlete during the moments that matter. But then it was also helpful to have the athletes really like directly speak to products, whether that was through kind of bigger campaigns across social media or at retail or within the media. But it was a good combination of both. I don't think we would have had the success we did if we just had one without the other.
Sure. And something that's spectacular about just like your LinkedIn is and your journey is, you've had 4 promotions in 4 years, all the way to VP of marketing. You got to be doing something right. What was there one project or a couple that really stood out to your, bosses or the C-suite that, is like, we gotta promote Steph here?
Yeah, I think during COVID, we went through a full rebrand and like redid the logo. We kind of repositioned ourselves as a high performance wellness brand because we felt like we were pretty cornered into recovery, and we didn't want to think that these products are just once you have an injury. Like it's also preventative, it's warm up, it's everyday wellness. And so we went through a big kind of restructure. We launched 7 new products in a day, a new website, a new logo. Wouldn't recommend if you're trying to have a life and sleep, but um, it was an amazing experience. And I think the leadership during that and the ability for our team to really work so closely together across all different functions, like digital and the sports partnerships and brand marketing, really coming together during that period and putting out a product that was super clean and got the message
Mm-hmm.
across that we wanted to,
So,
was an
so you,
amazing.
you led the rebrand, or you were a big part of it?
Myself and the VP that was in the role at the time.
Nice. And did you guys do that in-house, or did you hire an agency for that?
Mix of different vendors.
Gotcha.
We had an agency that helped with from like the logo side. We had
Nice.
an agency on the website. There was a
Yeah,
number of different people involved.
absolutely. And you go from coordinator, manager, director, VP. What are the biggest? I know maybe they're just names too, right? But what are the biggest difference responsibilities between those?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is probably like managing people, really like leading ideas, pushing agendas forward, um, is probably like the biggest difference I would see at Hyperice. We're definitely like a small team. I think sometimes we come off like a massive brand up on the outside, but it's
Mhm.
definitely still that like startup mentality on the inside, very like hungry and the hustle of a small team kind of working together. But
Sure.
I think during those different kind of role changes, it was more so from like a overall management perspective.
Absolutely. And how would you describe your leadership style?
It definitely like a team approach. I love hearing we have ideas come up from all parts of the business. And I always want my team to feel like no matter what level you are, like you can have an impact and you can bring an idea to the table. And so I think in that perspective, like I want things to always be super collaborative and for people to know that they have a voice. Um, but also kind of ensuring that the team knows the key priorities. I always want things to be super transparent, so that we're all kind of laddering up and leading towards the same direction.
When you go on Hyperice on Google and you click the news section, right? There's just a
Mhm.
ton of great articles about, whether it be Time Magazine, Fast Company, Men's Health. Like, how do you get all those articles? Obviously, there's got to be a great product, but there's also got to be some marketing and PR behind it as well.
Yeah. We have an amazing PR agency that helps us with all of those things. We've always like prioritized PR. I think it's super important, especially for a brand that is trying to grow from just an SEO perspective. These things help so much from a credibility perspective, especially in retail when at this point you go into a store, like there's a number of massage guns. Like, how are we separating ourselves? How are we making sure we stand out? And a lot of those awards are super helpful in that instance, as well as the athletes and the leagues and the logos that we're able to incorporate. But yeah, we do a lot with media. We prioritize media. We go to their offices and do pop-ups and give them massages and make sure they're familiar with the products and able to test and try so that we're continually top of mind when it comes to awards, gift guides, write-ups, whatever it may be.
Right now, as the VP of marketing there, like what are your biggest priorities?
For us right now is expanding our international growth. We've done very well in the US and we've kind of only just dipped our toe into select regions overseas. And it's not easy. You can't just dump your US strategy into Germany, Spain, and China and think it's going to pay off and work. So, over the next kind of 3 to 5 years, we're really prioritizing those localized approaches. How do we grow in regions outside of the US and make sure that we have an impact and people are aware of the brand and the products and are using them in their kind of everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that really is. It's so important to get it into the hands of people. What markets are you thinking about uh going international in, and why?
Yeah, I think for us, in Asia, China and Japan is really important for us. In Europe, it's the UK, Germany, Spain, and then obviously Canada and Australia as well, which I would say is somewhat similar to the US at this point. But really going over regions where there's a strong fitness market, there's obviously a wellness interest, there's the trends that are similar to the US in terms of people prioritizing their health and wellness and looking to invest in devices like the Hypervolt or Normatec and Venom. So yeah.
How do you, I feel like as a VP of marketing, most people have this question is how do you balance, or how does Hyperice balance brand versus paid?
Yeah, it's a tough job in marketing these days, but we're definitely very performance driven. Our digital team does an awesome job at ensuring we're investing, like we're seeing a strong return, but on the same hand, we're trying to make sure that we're always filling that top of funnel with brand and that we have new customers and we're bringing them in to the funnel and then pushing them down through our different paid initiatives. So a lot of that is like lead generation at events. We do so many events across the country, from Coachella hangover with Hyperice events to Super Bowls to All-Star weekends to wellness kind of pop-ups and marathons and Ironmans. And that's always a good opportunity for us to get in front of new people, get them testing and trialing the Normatec. Like that's $1,000 product. A lot of people aren't just going to go to the website and buy that without some sort of first-hand experience or hearing it from a friend. And so making sure our brand is showing up throughout the day for people and meeting these consumers where they are. We've just rolled out a partnership with like Delta Airlines in the lounges, or you can use them in the warm-up area at Equinox. And so just getting people to test and try and be introduced to the brand then helps from the performance side.
Sure. Do you have any like very out of the box or innovative brand plays that you've ever done?
Yeah, one of my favorites is definitely the Westin hotels. So when you stay at a hotel, you can rent a gear lending kit up to your room, which has a massage gun, one of our Hyperice, and then the Normatecs as well, which has been amazing for us just when people are traveling and they're jet lagged and they want to recover before a meeting, or they've had a long day outside scene. And it's just been a different audience for us. We were obviously born and bred in the training room, specifically the MBA and for the most elite, but we don't want that to be so intimidating that the everyday, like you and I, can't have access to these products and utilize them. So that's been helpful in terms of bridging that gap and making the products more accessible.
What's a recent campaign that you just completed or is about to happen that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, we've just come out of the crazy holiday period, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then the Christmas sales, which is always a fun time of year for us. We've learned a lot. We continue to learn a lot through those periods to make sure we're top of mind. There's so much noise. There's so much creativity from so many brands, and making sure that consumers are aware of you and what you're doing is really important. I guess looking further ahead and into 2025 now, we have a stacked innovation pipeline, which I'm super excited to get some of those products to market and see the campaigns come to life.
Absolutely. And how do you approach go to market from a new product? There's probably so much that goes into that.
Yeah, there's a lot, months and months to years of lead time. It's a lot of threading the needle of when product's landing, how are we getting it to retail, and making sure everything's kind of lined up. But we really start with the product. If it's something totally new or if it's updates, like what can we lean into from a creative perspective? What's the message that we want to hone into consumers? And then we build kind of creative around that, bring in different athletes, influencers, whatever it is, and then figure out our media mix from a digital perspective.
Totally. One last question before we hit the quick question round. I like asking these people or our guests this question. What's one thing that you're proud of personally, and then one thing that you're proud of professionally?
Professionally, I think it's like just the growth of Hyperice and my team. And I think seeing some people come in at similar kind of stages of life as me, and the amount that we've been able to kind of learn and grow together and experience has been really fun. It's such a tight-knit group of people, and we generally all love going to work together, which I know is rare these days. So that's something that I'm really proud of kind of growing and being a part of. And what was the other one?
Personally.
I think probably moving to the US. I think at the time I didn't really understand like what that meant, and it was if it doesn't work out, you can always come home. But I'm super proud that I've obviously been here for quite a while now, and it's definitely worked out. I love it, and I've had some amazing kind of career experiences along the way.
Amazing. Well, we're happy you're here, Steph.
Yeah, thank you.
As the media guru Gary Vaynerchuk once said, I only believe in 4 forms of media: influencer marketing, biddable media, the Super Bowl, and OpenFortune. By leveraging the simple yet impactful medium of fortune cookies, you can engage customers across 99% of U.S. zip codes through a network of 47,000 restaurants. It's a direct, tangible, and creative way to leave a lasting impression on your audience. Discover the power of OpenFortune today. All right, Steph. So person you'd most want to sit down to dinner with, dead or alive?
Kobe Bryant.
Favorite city in the world?
New York.
Is it okay to sleep with socks on?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm with you. So I'm so with you. Favorite rom-com?
Something Borrowed.
Favorite Australian?
Kylie Minogue.
Favorite Hyperice product?
The Venom 2-pack.
Best spot to eat in LA?
Oh, right now I'm loving Le Great Outdoor.
Favorite OU graduate?
Oh, Baker Mayfield.
In 40 years from now, what will people be nostalgic for?
I don't know. I feel like social media is going to continue to change. Probably something in that landscape.
Top 3 brands outside of Hyperice that you're a fan of?
Definitely Nike. I think Beats, a lot of their marketing campaigns are super impressive. And then a smaller scale kind of wellness brand would be Athletic Greens.
Absolutely. One thing people don't understand about your job is?
Not everybody can do social media.
That's so true. What's the worst advice you've ever been given?
Probably not to give something a shot. Not to at least try it.
What's the best advice you've ever been given?
Give it a shot. You have nothing to lose.
And in 10 years, where can we catch you, Steph?
Hopefully still in LA. I love it here.
There you go. Well, Steph, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, David. This has been awesome.